My family called me the black sheep for 15 years. Then my grandmother left me her 2.1 million estate and skipped everyone else entirely. I was 16 when I came out. Not just as gay, but as someone who refused to follow the family script. My parents wanted a lawyer. I wanted to study art. My older brother wanted me invisible. I obliged by moving out at 18 with $300 and a duffel bag. For years, I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving. Christmas cards came addressed to the Henderson family, with my name conspicuously absent. At my cousin's wedding, there was literally no seat for me at the family table. I ate dinner standing by the bar. The only person who never stopped calling was Grandma Vera. She'd phone every Sunday at 8 p.m., asking about my gallery assistant job, my tiny studio apartment, my boyfriend Trevor. When I sold my first painting for $400, she bought it for $200 and hung it in her living room. My brother was finishing his third year at Stanford Law. My sister had married a cardiologist. Both lived in houses my parents helped buy. Meanwhile, I was splitting a one-bedroom in Brooklyn with 2 roommates and eating ramen 4 nights a week. But I was happy. When she died last month, I showed up to the funeral in my only suit. My mother looked surprised to see me there. During the service, my dad delivered a eulogy about family values and legacy. He didn't mention me once. The lawyer called us in the next day. I almost didn't go. Trevor convinced me I should. The entire extended family crammed into the conference room. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all dressed like they were attending a stockholders meeting. Someone had actually brought a calculator. The lawyer cleared his throat. Vera Henderson's estate, valued at approximately $2.1 million, is to be divided as follows. You could feel everyone lean forward. The entire estate goes to her grandson. He looked directly at me. The room went silent. My mother's face drained of color. My brother stood up so fast his chair fell backward. This is a mistake, my dad said. There's a letter, the lawyer interrupted, sliding an envelope across the table to me. Inside, Grandma Vera's handwriting. They stopped seeing you 15 years ago. I never did. Build something beautiful. My brother started yelling about contesting the will. My sister was crying. The lawyer calmly explained that Grandma Vera had updated her will 6 months ago and had specifically anticipated challenges. I walked out with the envelope, leaving behind 20 furious relatives and 15 years of rejection. Trevor was waiting in the car. That night, my phone exploded. 43 missed calls. Texts ranged from my mom's, "We need to talk about what's fair," to my brother's, "You manipulated a dying woman." My sister's message was the worst. "Grandma promised me that house for my kids. You don't even have children. What are you going to do with $2.1 million? I met with the lawyer again yesterday. He handed me another envelope. Inside were 15 years of Grandma Vera's journals, page after page about our Sunday calls, my art, my life she'd watched from the distance my family created. The final entry was dated 2 weeks before she died. They'll finally see him the way I always have. This morning, a process server appeared at my door. My brother is suing for undue influence. My parents have hired their own attorney, but here's what none of them know yet. Last night, I found something else in Grandma Vera's papers, something that changes everything. And when it comes out, it won't just be about the money anymore. The folder was labeled simply, "For the Court." Inside were bank statements dating back 12 years. Grandma Vera had been meticulous. Every transaction highlighted, every withdrawal documented, every forged signature circled in red ink. My hands shook as I read through the first page. In March 2013, someone had withdrawn $45,000 from Grandma Vera's savings account. The signature read, Vera Henderson. But beneath it, in her careful handwriting, she'd written, "I did not authorize this. David Henderson forged my signature. David, my father." I kept reading. June 2013, another $30,000. October 2013, $52,000. The pattern continued for years. Always my father's name in her notes. Sometimes my mother's. Twice, my brother's. They'd been systematically draining her accounts while she watched and documented everything. By 2015, they'd taken over $340,000. There were letters, too. Emails printed and filed chronologically. My sister writing to ask for $15,000 for her wedding, promising to pay it back. She never did. My brother requesting $60,000 for a down payment on his condo. The money came from Grandma Vera's retirement fund. My uncle had borrowed $85,000 for his business venture that went bankrupt within 6 months. My aunt took $40,000 for her daughter's college tuition, despite having a 6-figure household income. Everyone had helped themselves to Grandma Vera's money. Everyone except me. But the bank statements were just the beginning. Beneath them, I found medical records. In 2016, my father had tried to have Grandma Vera declared mentally incompetent. He'd taken her to 3 different doctors, shopping for one who would sign off on his petition. The first 2 had refused, noting that Vera Henderson was sharp, articulate, and fully capable of managing her own affairs. The 3rd doctor had been willing to write whatever my father wanted, for a fee. Grandma Vera had fired him immediately and documented the entire scheme. She'd even recorded one of their conversations. The CD was labeled David's Plan in her handwriting. I slid it into my laptop with trembling fingers. My father's voice crackled through the speakers. "Mom, we're just worried about you. Living alone at your age, managing all this money. What if something happens? What if you forget to pay bills or get confused?" "I'm 73, David, not senile." Grandma Vera's voice was crisp, clear. "My bills are paid automatically and have been for 15 years. I balance my checkbook every month. I know exactly how much money I have. That's exactly what concerns us." A pause. "You have too much money for someone living alone. It's not safe. People could take advantage of you. People like you?" The silence that followed was deafening. "I don't know what you mean," my father finally said. "I mean the $340,000 you and your siblings have stolen from me over the past 4 years. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Did you think I was already incompetent? Those weren't stolen. Those were loans. Family helps family. Loans require repayment, David. You've never paid back a single dollar. That's called theft. My father's voice hardened. You're being difficult, Mom. Paranoid. Maybe that doctor was right about early signs of dementia. The doctor you paid to lie? I have his fee structure, David. $5,000 for a diagnosis of incompetence. Another $10,000 if it leads to a conservatorship hearing. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? This is exactly what we're talking about. These wild accusations. This hostility toward your own children. It's not normal. What's not normal is my son trying to steal my independence so he can steal my money more efficiently. I'm changing my will, David. I'm cutting all of you out. Every single one of you. You can't do that. Watch me. The recording ended there. The date stamp read April 3rd, 2016, 9 years before she died. She'd known what they were all along and had spent nearly a decade documenting everything. I found myself crying, not from sadness but from rage. They'd isolated her, gaslit her, tried to have her declared incompetent so they could take everything. And when that failed, they'd simply kept stealing, assuming she was too old or too trusting to fight back. She'd fought back by turning silent, by watching, by saving every receipt and recording every conversation. There was one more document in the folder. A notarized statement dated 2 months before her death. To whom it may concern, I am Vera Henderson, of sound mind and body. I am writing this statement to explain why I have left my entire estate to my grandson and excluded the rest of my family. It is not because of undue influence. It is not because I was confused or manipulated. It is because for 15 years, my family systematically stole from me, lied to me, and tried to have me declared incompetent so they could steal more efficiently. I have documented everything. The bank statements, the forged signatures, the medical fraud, all of it. My grandson is the only person who never asked me for money. The only person who called because he wanted to hear my voice, not because he wanted my checkbook. If my family contests this will, these documents should be made public. Let them explain to a court exactly how they treated their mother while she was alive. Let them explain where all that money went. Signed, Vera Henderson. Trevor found me at 3 a.m., surrounded by papers, still crying. What's wrong? He knelt beside me, his hand on my shoulder. I handed him the folder without speaking. He read for 20 minutes, his expression darkening with every page. When he finally looked up, his jaw was clenched. They're suing you for undue influence? They served me this morning. After stealing from her for over a decade? He was furious now. After trying to have her declared incompetent? After forging her signature on bank withdrawals? They don't know I have this yet. Trevor stared at me. You have to tell your lawyer immediately. I know. This changes everything. They won't just lose the lawsuit. They could face criminal charges, bank fraud, elder abuse, attempted guardianship fraud. He kept reading, shaking his head. Your father tried to bribe a doctor. That's a felony. I'd thought the same thing. Hours ago, I'd been preparing to defend myself against accusations that I'd manipulated a dying woman. Now I was holding evidence that my entire family had systematically abused her for years. When does the lawsuit hearing start? Trevor asked. 3 weeks. Call your lawyer first thing in the morning. Show him everything. I did. At 9 a.m., I was sitting in Leonard Brooks's office. The folder spread across his desk. Leonard was in his late 60s, a estate attorney who'd been practicing for 40 years. He'd seen everything, except this. He read through the documents twice, his expression shifting from interested to shocked to something approaching awe. She documented everything, he said finally. Every single transaction, dated, notarized, recorded. This is the most thorough evidence of elder financial abuse I've ever seen. What happens now? Now, he leaned back in his chair. Now your brother's lawsuit becomes the worst decision he's ever made. The moment he filed, he opened the door for all of this to become public record. We were going to defend against his claims of undue influence. Instead, we're going to counterclaim for fraud, theft, and elder abuse. Will it work? It's not a question of if it will work. It's a question of how much damage it will do. Your father forged your grandmother's signature on bank documents. That's bank fraud, which carries up to 30 years in federal prison. Your brother and sister accepted money they knew was stolen. Your uncle, your aunt, all of them participated in systematically draining her accounts. This isn't a civil matter anymore. This is criminal. My stomach turned. I don't want them to go to prison. Leonard looked at me over his reading glasses. That's not your decision. Once we file this evidence, the DA's office will likely open an investigation. Elder abuse is prosecuted aggressively in this state, especially when it's this well documented. Can we just use it to make them drop the lawsuit? We can try. But understand, your grandmother wanted this exposed. She spent 9 years documenting everything specifically so it could be used in court. She wanted the truth to come out. He was right. The notarized statement made that clear. She'd known they would contest the will. She'd prepared for it. She'd wanted them to face consequences. What do? We file a response to your brother's lawsuit. We include all of this as evidence. We file a counterclaim for the money they stole, plus damages. Then we wait and see if they're smart enough to back down. 3 days later, my brother's lawyer received our response. It was 147 pages long. The first page was our denial of undue influence. The remaining 146 pages were bank statements, forged signatures, medical records, recorded conversations, and Grandma Vera's notarized statement. My phone started ringing at 11 a.m. My brother first. I didn't answer. Then my sister. I let it ring. My father called 6 times in 10 minutes. I blocked his number. By evening, I had 83 missed calls and 127 text messages. I read a few before turning off my phone. My brother. You've crossed a line. These accusations are defamatory. Expect another lawsuit. My sister. How could you do this to us? Grandma would be horrified. My mother. We can work this out. Let's talk before this gets any worse. My uncle. Those documents are fake. You forged them, my aunt. You're tearing this family apart over money. Is that what you want? The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Trevor held me that night while I processed everything. You're doing the right thing, he kept saying. You're honoring her wishes. But it didn't feel right. It felt like dropping a bomb on my entire family, even if they deserved it. The next day, Leonard called. They want to meet. Who? All of them. Your parents, your brother, your sister. They've hired a mediator. They want to settle before this goes any further. Do I have to go? No, but I recommend it. Hear what they have to say. See if they're willing to accept responsibility and move forward. The meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon at a neutral mediation office downtown. I showed up with Leonard and Trevor. My family arrived with 3 lawyers, a mediator, and matching expressions of barely contained fury. The mediator, a woman named Patricia Gaines, started with the usual pleasantries about finding common ground and family healing. My brother cut her off. Let's skip the therapy session and talk reality. You've made serious accusations. Accusations that could destroy this family's reputation. We're here to discuss a settlement that makes this go away quietly. Leonard didn't even blink. Your client filed a lawsuit claiming my client manipulated an elderly woman. We simply responded with evidence showing that you and your family were the ones manipulating her. For years. With documented proof. My father leaned forward. Those documents are taken out of context. The money was borrowed with verbal agreements. Perfectly legal. Then explain the recorded conversation where Mrs. Henderson explicitly calls it theft. My mother was angry. She said things she didn't mean. She notarized a legal statement 2 months before her death saying the exact same thing. Was she angry then too? My sister started crying. This is exactly what's wrong with our family. Always fighting. Always accusing. Can't we just forgive and move on? I'd been silent up to this point. Now I spoke. You had 15 years to forgive me. 15 years to include me in Christmas. 15 years to save me a seat at a family table. Where was all this love for family then? That was different. My mother said quietly. How? You chose to leave. You chose to be different. You made things difficult. I came out as gay. That's not a choice. And even if it was, it doesn't justify stealing from Grandma Vera for over a decade. We didn't steal, my brother snapped. We borrowed. Family borrows from family. Did you ever pay any of it back? Silence. Did Grandma Vera know about these loans when you took them? More silence. Did she authorize the withdrawals that Dad forged her signature on? My father's lawyer put a hand on his arm, signaling him not to answer. That's what I thought, I said. Patricia tried to redirect. Perhaps we can focus on finding a path forward that works for everyone. What would you need to drop the counterclaim? Leonard answered before I could. Full restitution of all stolen funds. Approximately $847,000 with interest. A written apology, and immediate dismissal of the lawsuit against my client with prejudice. My brother's lawyer laughed. That's not happening. Then we'll see you in court. And I should mention, we've already forwarded copies of all evidence to the district attorney's office. They're opening a criminal investigation. The color drained from my father's face. You did what? Elder financial abuse is a crime in this state. Your mother documented everything specifically for this purpose. We're simply following her wishes. The room erupted. My brother started yelling about how I destroyed the family. My sister sobbed that I was vindictive and cruel. My father sat frozen, staring at the table. Only my mother spoke calmly. How much do you want? Everyone turned to look at her. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You're angry because you were left out. Because you think we got more than you did. So tell us the number. How much will it take for you to make this all disappear? I stood up. Trevor and Leonard stood with me. You still don't get it, I said. This isn't about money. It never was. Grandma Vera didn't leave me her estate because I manipulated her. She left it to me because I was the only one who loved her without wanting anything in return. The only one who called just to hear her voice. The only one who didn't see her as a bank account. That's not fair, my sister said. We loved her. You loved her money. There's a difference. I walked to the door. Leonard and Trevor followed. Behind me, my father finally spoke. If you go through with this, you'll lose everything. Your family, your name, your history. Is that really worth it? I turned back. I already lost all of that 15 years ago. You made sure of it. I'm just making sure Grandma Vera gets the last word. We left them sitting there, 3 lawyers and 4 family members, who'd finally realized they'd miscalculated everything. The next 3 weeks were brutal. The DA's office interviewed me twice, asking detailed questions about my family's finances and Grandma Vera's medical history. They subpoenaed bank records going back 15 years. They questioned the doctor my father had tried to bribe. They interviewed Grandma Vera's neighbors, her friends from church, anyone who'd known her in her final years. Every one of them said the same thing. Vera Henderson was sharp, independent, and clear-minded until the day she died, and she'd been hurt by her family's treatment of her for years. My father's lawyer sent 4 different settlement offers. Each one included paying back some portion of the stolen money in exchange for dropping the criminal complaint. Leonard rejected all of them. We don't control the criminal investigation, he explained to me. Even if we wanted to drop it, the DA has enough evidence to prosecute without our cooperation. Your family doesn't seem to understand that. The court date for my brother's lawsuit arrived on a cold Tuesday in March. The courthouse was older, the kind with marble floors and wooden benches that had seen a century of family disputes. My entire extended family showed up. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen since I was a kid. They sat on one side of the courtroom like a unified front. I sat on the other side with Trevor and Leonard, just the 3 of us. Judge Patricia Coleman presided. She was in her late 50s with steel gray hair and a reputation for running an efficient courtroom. She'd reviewed all the filings before the hearing. My brother's lawyer stood first. His argument was simple. I'd manipulated an elderly woman in her final years, isolating her from her family and convincing her to disinherit everyone else. The evidence was circumstantial. The Sunday phone calls that only I knew about, the journal entries that painted everyone else in a negative light, the suspicious timing of the will change. He made it sound almost plausible. Then Leonard stood. He didn't argue. He simply entered into evidence the folder Grandma Vera had prepared. The bank statements showing $847,000 in unauthorized withdrawals. The forged signatures with my father's name circled in red ink. The recorded conversation where my father admitted the money was never repaid. The medical records showing the attempted guardianship fraud. The notarized statement explaining exactly why she'd disinherited everyone. He played the recording. In the silent courtroom, Grandma Vera's voice was crystal clear. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? When it ended, Leonard addressed the judge directly. Your Honor, the plaintiff claims my client engaged in undue influence. The evidence shows the opposite. While the plaintiff and his family were systematically stealing from Vera Henderson, my client was building an honest relationship with her. He never asked for money, never borrowed without repaying, never forged a signature, never tried to have her declared incompetent so he could access her accounts more easily. The plaintiff's case isn't just baseless. It's projection. They're accusing my client of exactly what they themselves did. Judge Coleman looked at my brother. Counselor, do you have any response to this evidence? My brother's lawyer shuffled papers. Your Honor, we dispute the characterization of these transactions. These were family loans made with verbal agreements. Verbal agreements to forge Mrs. Henderson's signature on bank documents. We would argue those signatures were authorized through prior verbal consent. Do you have any evidence of this verbal consent? No, Your Honor, but do you have any evidence that any of this money was ever repaid? The repayment terms were flexible and informal, so that's a no. Judge Coleman flipped through the documents. What about this recorded conversation? Mrs. Henderson explicitly states the money was stolen and never repaid. How do you explain that? Mrs. Henderson was upset in that moment. She later reconciled with the family and 2 months before her death, she signed a notarized statement saying the exact same thing. Was she upset then too? My brother's lawyer had no answer. Judge Coleman turned to Leonard. You've filed a counterclaim for the return of these funds? Yes, Your Honor. $847,000 plus interest and damages. I'm granting summary judgment on the counterclaim. The evidence is overwhelming. The plaintiff and his family systematically defrauded Vera Henderson of $847,000 over a period of 12 years. They will repay every dollar with interest within 90 days. My brother stood up. Your Honor, we don't have that kind of money. Then you'll need to sell assets. Just like your mother had to liquidate assets to cover the money you stole. She looked at him coldly. As for your lawsuit claiming undue influence, it's dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, I'm awarding attorney's fees and costs to the defendant. Your frivolous lawsuit has wasted this court's time and subjected your brother to emotional distress while he was grieving his grandmother. She signed the order and looked up. I'm also forwarding this entire case file to the district attorney's office with a recommendation for prosecution. What you did to your mother is despicable. Get out of my courtroom. The gavel came down. For a moment, no one moved. Then my brother's lawyer started gathering papers, signaling for everyone to leave quietly. My family filed out in shocked silence. A few gave me looks that could have melted steel. Most kept their eyes on the floor. Only my mother stopped at my row. She looked older than I remembered. Smaller. I hope you're happy, she said softly. I'm not, I told her honestly. But Grandma Vera deserved justice. You made sure she never got it while she was alive. At least she got it now. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something else. Then she just shook her head and walked away. Outside the courthouse, Trevor hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. You did it. You actually did it. Leonard was already on his phone, texting someone. The DA wants to meet next week. They're moving forward with criminal charges against your father and potentially your brother. The forged signatures are federal offenses. Will they go to prison? Probably not for the first offense, but they'll have records. And they'll have to pay restitution. The judge's order makes that clear. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt exhausted. That night, I sat in the apartment I'd shared with Trevor for 3 years, looking at Grandma Vera's journals spread across the coffee table. 15 years of Sunday conversations. 15 years of watching her grandson become himself while her other grandchildren became strangers. One entry from 2019 caught my eye. Called tonight and asked about his new painting series. He's exploring themes of family and belonging. I told him his work was brave. He laughed and said brave was just another word for unemployed. But I see what he's doing. He's creating the family he never had in art, making homes on canvas that he was never given in life. I wish I could tell him how proud I am, how watching him build a life from nothing but love and determination has been the greatest gift. But I think he knows. I hope he knows. I hadn't known. Not really. I'd thought the phone calls were just her being kind to the family outcast. I didn't realize she saw me clearly enough to understand what I was doing with my art before I understood it myself. Trevor found me crying at 2 a.m., the journal still open. You okay? He sat beside me on the couch. She knew me better than I knew myself. He read the entry and smiled. She loved you. Really loved you. Not because of what you could give her, but because of who you were. I wish I told her more, called more often, visited more. You called every Sunday for 15 years. That's more than most people give. It doesn't feel like enough. It was enough for her. Look at what she did. She didn't just leave you money. She left you validation, proof that you were right to be yourself. Evidence that family isn't who shares your blood, it's who shows up when you need them. He was right. The money was life-changing, yes. But the real inheritance was those journals. Those 15 years of documentation showing that someone had seen me, valued me, and loved me exactly as I was. The next week, I received notice that my father was negotiating a plea deal with the DA's office. He'd plead guilty to 1 count of elder financial abuse in exchange for probation and full restitution. My brother was negotiating separately. My sister, uncle, and aunt were categorized as receivers of stolen property and would face lighter charges if they repaid what they'd taken. None of them were going to prison, but all of them would have criminal records. All of them would be publicly identified as people who'd abused an elderly family member for financial gain. The local paper ran a story. Then the regional news picked it up. Family steals. Nearly $1 million from grandmother gets caught when they sue honest grandson, made for a compelling headline. My father's law firm quietly asked him to resign. My brother's firm put him on administrative leave pending the resolution of criminal charges. My sister's husband filed for divorce, citing the public embarrassment. I felt guilty about all of it until I remembered what Grandma Vera had written. Let them explain to a court exactly how they treated their mother while she was alive. She'd wanted this. She'd orchestrated it from beyond the grave with the kind of precision that made me understand where I'd gotten my attention to detail. 2 months after the trial, I received the first restitution payment, $150,000 from my father's portion of the money he'd stolen. It went directly into the estate account. By court order, everything had to be repaid before any of them could access their own assets. My brother sold his condo. My sister sold her car collection and jewelry. My uncle liquidated his retirement account. My aunt took out a second mortgage. Slowly, painfully, they were paying back every dollar. I didn't touch any of it. The money sat in the estate account, accumulating interest, while I figured out what to do with it. Trevor suggested we buy a house, get out of Brooklyn, start fresh somewhere quieter. But that felt wrong somehow, like I'd be using blood money to build a comfortable life. One night, I was looking through Grandma Vera's journals again and found a list she'd made in 2017. Things that matter. It was simple. Art that tells the truth. People who show up, second chances for those who deserve them. Opportunities for those who never got a first chance. That's when I knew. I spent the next 3 months working with lawyers and financial advisors, setting up the Vera Henderson Foundation for Young Artists. The mission was simple: provide grants, housing, and support for LGBTQ+ artists who'd been rejected by their families. Kids like I'd been at 18, with $300 in a duffel bag and nowhere to go but forward. The foundation would offer residencies, studio space, exhibition opportunities, and most importantly, community. A chosen family for those whose biological families had chosen rejection. I used $1.2 million of the estate to establish the endowment. The rest went to purchasing a building in Queens that used to be a textile factory. We converted it into 20 studio apartments with shared gallery space, workshops, and common areas. Artists could live there rent-free for up to 2 years while they established themselves. The restitution money as it came in went into the foundation's operational budget. Every dollar my family had stolen from Grandma Vera would now go toward helping young artists build the lives they deserved. Trevor quit his job to run the foundation full-time. We hired a small staff, LGBTQ+ artists and advocates who understood exactly what we were trying to build. By August, we had our first cohort of residents, 12 artists, ages 18 to 24, each with a story of family rejection and artistic dreams that had seemed impossible. At the opening ceremony, I hung Grandma Vera's portrait in the main gallery, the one I'd painted when I was 19, which she'd bought for $200. Beneath it, I placed the final page of her journal. They'll finally see him the way I always have. One of the residents, a 19-year-old named Alexis, who'd been sleeping in her car after her parents kicked her out, stopped in front of the portrait. "Who is she?" Alexis asked. "My grandmother. She's the reason any of this exists." She must have been amazing. She was. She saw me when no one else would. Now we get to do the same thing for all of you. Alexis started crying. My family said I'd never make it as an artist, that I'd end up homeless and alone. You're not alone anymore. I know. This place, it's like having a family again. A real one. That's exactly what Grandma Vera had wanted to create. Not just financial support, but belonging. 6 months later, my father completed his restitution payments. He sent a formal letter through his lawyer, stating that his legal obligation was fulfilled and he wanted no further contact. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. My brother's payments trickled in more slowly. He'd lost his legal career and was working in insurance, making a fraction of his former salary. But the court order was clear. He had to repay every dollar or face contempt charges. He paid. My sister never contacted me directly, but 3 months after the foundation opened, I received an anonymous donation for $5,000. The return address was her old house. I didn't acknowledge it, but I didn't send it back either. If guilt was finally catching up to her, maybe that was its own form of justice. The family I'd once tried so desperately to be part of scattered like dust. My parents sold their house and moved to Arizona. My brother relocated to Ohio. My sister stayed local but changed her name back to her maiden name, trying to distance herself from the scandal. Extended family members I'd never been close to sent awkward friend requests on social media, suddenly interested in reconnecting now that I had money and a public platform. I ignored them all. The only family that mattered was the one I'd built. Trevor and I got married that fall in the foundation's gallery, surrounded by residents who'd become friends, chosen family who'd shown up. We'd known each other for 8 years, been through hell and back together. During the ceremony, we lit a candle for Grandma Vera. Trevor read from her journals, the entry about bravery being another word for unemployed. Everyone laughed. Then someone started crying, which set off a chain reaction until half the wedding party was in tears. "She would have loved this," Trevor said. "She made this possible," I corrected, because that was the truth. Every part of my life now traced back to those Sunday night phone calls. Those 15 years of unconditional love. That final act of trust when she left everything to the grandson everyone else had written off. 1 year after the trial, I received a letter. It had been forwarded through my lawyer's office. No return address. Inside, my mother's handwriting. I've been in therapy for the past 8 months trying to understand how we got here, how I let your father treat you the way he did, how I participated in cutting you out, how I watched you leave at 18 and did nothing to stop it. My therapist asked me to write down my memories of you as a child. I remembered how creative you were, how sensitive, how you saw beauty in things other people overlooked. I remembered being proud of you, before your father convinced me that pride was dangerous, that your differences were something to correct, not celebrate. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that Vera was right about you. She always was. You built something beautiful out of rejection. You turned pain into purpose. You became exactly who you were supposed to be. I'm sorry I wasn't there to watch it happen. I'm sorry I chose your father's approval over my son's well-being. I'm sorry for all of it. The house in Arizona is quiet. Your father barely speaks to me. I think he blames me for not stopping you from exposing everything, but I don't blame you. You did what Vera wanted, what she deserved. I hope you're happy. I hope Trevor treats you well. I hope your art brings you joy. And I hope someday you can think about me without feeling only anger, not forgiveness. Just maybe, eventually, indifference. That would be enough. I read it 3 times. Trevor found me staring at it at the kitchen table. Is that from your mom? Yeah. What are you going to do? I don't know. I'd spent so many years being angry. Angry at the rejection, the exclusion, the casual cruelty. Then I'd been angry about what they'd done to Grandma Vera, the theft, the manipulation, the attempted fraud. But sitting there with my mother's letter, I realized I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt tired and sad. Sad for what could have been. Sad for the family we might have had if my father had been different. If my mother had been stronger. If my siblings had been kinder. I think I'm going to not respond, I said finally. At least not yet. Maybe not ever. But I'm going to keep the letter. Because someday I might want to remember that she tried. That's fair. Is it? It's what you need. That's what makes it fair. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Maybe I'd answer it someday. Maybe I wouldn't. But having the option felt important. Life moved forward. The foundation thrived. We expanded to a second building, then a third. Artists who'd come through our program were exhibiting in galleries across the country, creating work that challenged and inspired. Several had been profiled in art magazines, talking about how the Vera Henderson Foundation had saved their lives and their careers. Every success felt like vindication, not of me, but of Grandma Vera's vision. She'd known what I could build if given the chance. She'd bet everything on it. 5 years after her death, I was invited to speak at an art education conference. The topic was supporting LGBTQ+ artists. I almost declined until Trevor pointed out that Grandma Vera would have wanted me to share her story. I stood on stage in front of 400 art educators and told them everything. The rejection, the Sunday phone calls, the inheritance, the lawsuit, the foundation. My grandmother saw me when everyone else looked away, I said. She believed in me when my own family didn't. She gave me more than money. She gave me validation, proof that I wasn't wrong to be myself. And in her final act, she gave me the resources to help other kids who need someone to see them. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, a dozen educators approached, asking how they could support students like I'd been, how they could be the person who sees kids when their families won't. I gave them the same answer every time. Listen, believe them. Don't try to fix them or change them. Just let them know they're not alone. That night, I called Trevor from my hotel room. How did it go? He asked. I cried on stage. In a good way? In a Grandma Vera would be proud way. She is proud. I know she is. I wish she could see what we've built. She can. Wherever she is, she sees it. And she knows it's exactly what she hoped for. I wanted to believe that. Needed to believe it. 6 years after the trial, the foundation had helped 147 artists. Some had gone on to prestigious graduate programs. Others had opened their own galleries. A few were teaching, passing on the support they'd received to the next generation. We'd expanded into advocacy work, partnering with organizations that fought for LGBTQ+ rights and artists' protections. Trevor testified before the state legislature about funding for arts education. I spoke at universities about the intersection of identity and creativity. Every interview asked the same question. How did you turn family rejection into this incredible organization? My answer was always honest. I didn't. My grandmother did. She left me the blueprint. I just followed her instructions. 7 years after her death, I received an email from my brother. Subject line, amends. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. I've been sober for 2 years. One of the steps is making amends to people I've harmed. I harmed you, repeatedly, for years. I stood by while Dad cut you out of the family. I participated in the mockery. I took money from Grandma Vera I knew I'd never repay. I sued you for undue influence when I was the one who'd been influenced by greed my entire life. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't forgive myself. But I want you to know I see what I did. I see who I was. And I'm trying to be different. Not for you. You don't owe me anything. But for myself. Because I don't want to be that person anymore. The foundation is incredible. Grandma Vera would be so proud. You built exactly what she envisioned. You became exactly who you were supposed to be. I'm sorry I tried to stop that from happening. I'm sorry for all of it. I showed Trevor the email. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to believe he means it. But I've heard apologies before. From Dad, from Mom, from everyone. They were always sorry, until they needed something from me again. So don't respond. Should I? Only if you want to. Not because you feel obligated. I thought about it for a week. Finally, I sent a 3-sentence reply. I appreciate you reaching out. I'm glad you're working on yourself. I'm not ready for a relationship, but I wish you well. He responded immediately. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. I didn't reply again, but I didn't delete the exchange either. Maybe someday I'd want to revisit it. Maybe I wouldn't. The option was there. 8 years after Grandma Vera's death, we hit a milestone. The foundation had helped 200 artists. We threw a reunion party, inviting everyone who'd been through the program. Over 150 people showed up, filling the gallery with noise and life and art. One of the first residents, Alexis, was now teaching at the School of Visual Arts. She'd become a mentor to dozens of younger artists, paying forward what she'd received. None of this would exist without your grandmother, she said, standing beside Vera's portrait. She's literally changed hundreds of lives. She changed mine first, I said. Everything else just followed from that. Did you ever imagine it would get this big? No, I was just trying to honor her memory, build something beautiful like she asked. You did. This is so beautiful. Looking around the gallery at all these artists who'd found community and support and validation, I finally understood what Grandma Vera had meant. She hadn't asked me to build something beautiful in terms of aesthetics or success. She'd asked me to build something beautiful in terms of purpose, to create the family I'd never had, to give others what she'd given me. I'd done that. We'd done that together, her vision and my execution. 9 years after her death, my father died. I found out 3 weeks later when a lawyer contacted me about his will. He'd left me $500, a deliberate insult. I donated it to the foundation. My mother called for the first time in 9 years. I thought you should know, in case you wanted to come to the funeral. I don't. He was still your father. Biologically, yes. In every other way that matters, no. She was quiet for a long time. I understand. I just wanted to offer. How are you doing? The question surprised both of us. I'm okay. Lonely, but okay. Another pause. The foundation is remarkable. I read about it in the Times last month. Thank you. Vera would be so proud. I know. I'm proud too. For whatever that's worth. It's worth something, I said honestly. Not everything, but something. She started crying. I'm so sorry. For all of it. Every year of it. Every choice I made that hurt you. I know. Do you forgive me? I thought about that question. Really thought about it. I don't know yet, I said finally, but I'm working on it. Ask me again in a few years. Okay. She sounded relieved just to have the possibility. I'll do that. We hung up. I sat in my studio, surrounded by my art and my life and the family I'd built from scratch, and felt something shift. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of letting go. 10 years after Grandma Vera's death, we celebrated the foundation's anniversary with a gala. Major donors, artists, advocates, everyone who'd supported our work over the decade. We'd helped 312 artists, raised over $8 million, changed hundreds of lives. During my speech, I talked about Grandma Vera, about the Sunday phone calls, the journal entries, the final letter telling me to build something beautiful. She saw me when no one else would, I said. She loved me when love was scarce. She believed in me when belief was dangerous. And in her final act, she gave me the resources to do for others what she'd done for me. Every artist we support, every life we change, every person who finds community here is because she chose to see potential instead of difference, chose to love instead of judge, chose to trust instead of control. This foundation isn't my legacy, it's hers. We're just the people privileged enough to carry it forward. The applause was thunderous, but more than that, it was grateful. Everyone in that room understood what it meant to be seen, to be valued, to be given a chance when chances were scarce. After the gala, Trevor and I walked back to our apartment. We'd moved to Queens 5 years ago, closer to the foundation. Our place was small but filled with art from residents past and present. She'd be proud, Trevor said for the 1,000th time. I know. Do you really? Because sometimes I think you still doubt it. He was right. I did doubt it sometimes. Wondered if I'd done enough, built enough, helped enough. What if I'd done more? I asked. Called more often, visited more, told her how much she meant to me. You did tell her. Every Sunday for 15 years. You showed her by living authentically, by building a life she could be proud of, by being exactly who she knew you could be. I just wish I could thank her. One more time. You do thank her. Every time you help an artist. Every time you tell her story. Every time you choose love over bitterness. He was right. The foundation wasn't just charity. It was gratitude in action. Every life we changed was a thank you letter to Grandma Vera. 11 years after her death, I finally responded to my mother's question about forgiveness. We met for coffee at a neutral location, a cafe in Manhattan neither of us had history with. She looked older, grayer, more fragile than I remembered. You asked if I forgave you, I said after we ordered. You don't have to answer that. I want to. The answer is yes. Not because you deserve it. Not because what happened was okay, but because carrying anger for 15 years was exhausting. I'm choosing to forgive because I need to let it go. She started crying. Thank you. That doesn't mean we're going to have a relationship. I don't know if we can. I understand. But maybe we can have coffee sometimes. See what happens. I'd like that. We talked for an hour. Nothing deep. Nothing heavy. Just surface level catching up. She told me about Arizona. I told her about the foundation. We carefully avoided any topic that might trigger old wounds. When we parted, she hugged me. I let her. Your grandmother loved you so much, she said. I know I should have too. I'm sorry it took me so long to figure that out. She did love me. That's what matters. Driving home, I felt lighter. Not healed, not whole, but lighter. Like I'd finally put down a weight I'd been carrying for decades. That night, I pulled out Grandma Vera's journals one more time. I'd read them hundreds of times over the years, but they still revealed new things. This time, I found an entry from 2018 that I'd somehow missed before. Talked to him today about forgiveness. He asked if I'd forgiven his parents for how they treated him. I said I was working on it. Truth is, I'm not sure I can. but I don't want him to carry that burden. I want him to be free of anger, even if I never am. That's what real love is. Wanting better for someone else than you can achieve for yourself. He's already so much better than all of us. So much kinder. So much more authentic. He's going to do incredible things with his life. I just hope I live long enough to see it start. She hadn't lived to see the foundation, hadn't seen the hundreds of lives change, hadn't seen me become who I was supposed to be, but she'd believed it would happen. That was enough. 12 years after her death, I turned 43, the same age Grandma Vera had been when my father was born. I'd outlived her by decades, but her influence was woven through everything I did. The foundation was thriving. Trevor and I had just purchased a 4th building. We'd helped over 450 artists. Dozens had gone on to prestigious careers. All of them had found community. On my birthday, the current residents threw me a party. Cake, music, art everywhere. One of them, a 20-year-old named River, gave a speech. "A year ago I was sleeping in my car," River said. "My parents kicked me out for being non-binary. I'd given up on art school, given up on my dreams. Then I found this place, found people who saw me, who believed in me, who gave me a chance. This foundation saved my life. All of you saved my life." River looked directly at me. "Your grandmother must have been an incredible woman to raise someone like you." "She didn't raise me," I said. "My parents did, and they did a terrible job. But Grandma Vera loved me anyway, saw past all my damage and fear, believed I could be more than my circumstances. That's what we try to do here. See past the damage, believe in the potential." "Well, it's working," River said. "Because I believe now, in myself, in my art, in the possibility of building a life worth living. That's what Grandma Vera had given me, belief in possibility. And now I got to pass that forward to hundreds of other artists who needed someone to believe in them." 15 years after her death, I stood in the main gallery of the foundation, looking at Grandma Vera's portrait. I was 46 now. Trevor and I had been married for 12 years. The foundation had helped 723 artists across 5 buildings. I'd built something beautiful. Not perfect, not without struggle or setback, but beautiful in the ways that mattered. A young artist walked up beside me. Her name was Hope, which felt prophetically appropriate. "Is that really her?" Hope asked. "The woman who started all of this? That's really her. What was she like?" I thought about that question, about the Sunday phone calls, about her buying my painting for 3 times its value, about the journals documenting 15 years of unconditional love, about the folder labeled "For the Court" that had exposed my family's cruelty and given me justice. "She was someone who saw people," I said finally, "really saw them. Not who they were supposed to be or who their parents wanted them to be, but who they actually were. And she loved what she saw. That's beautiful. She was beautiful, in all the ways that matter." Hope studied the portrait for a long time. "I hope someone sees me like that someday." "We already do," I told her. "That's why you're here." She started crying. I let her. Then I hugged her, because that's what Grandma Vera would have done. That night, Trevor and I sat on our balcony looking out at the city lights. "She'd be so proud," he said. Again, "I know. I finally know." What changed? I stopped measuring her pride by what I accomplished, started measuring it by who I became. She didn't want me to be successful. She wanted me to be myself, fully, authentically, without apology. And you are. I am. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the city move below us. "Do you ever regret it?" Trevor asked. "Fighting with your family, losing them all. I didn't lose them. They lost me. There's a difference." I thought about it more. But no, I don't regret it. Grandma Vera left me 2 inheritances. The money, which we turned into the foundation, and the truth, which set me free. I wouldn't trade either one, even for your family back, especially for that. Because the family I have now, you, the artists, the community we've built, that's worth more than any blood relation ever gave me. He kissed me. We sat together as the sun set over Queens, over the buildings we'd converted into sanctuaries for lost artists, over the legacy Grandma Vera had left that kept growing and expanding and touching more lives every year. I'd spent 15 years being the black sheep, 15 more years building something beautiful from that rejection. And somewhere, I like to think, Grandma Vera was watching it all, proud not because I'd succeeded, but because I'd stayed true to myself, because I'd taken her gift and multiplied it into hundreds of second chances for kids who needed what she'd given me. Love, belief, a place to belong. That was her real inheritance. Everything else was just details. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother, who I now had coffee with every few months. "Happy birthday. Vera would be so proud of you." "I am too." I smiled and texted back. "Thank you. That means more than you know." It did mean something. Not everything, but something. And in the end, that was enough. I'd built something beautiful. Not despite my family's rejection, but because of it. Not in spite of my pain, but through it. Grandma Vera had known I would. She'd seen it before I could, and she'd bet everything on me being strong enough to prove her right. I was. We were. And the artists who walked through our doors every year, carrying their duffel bags and their dreams and their pain, they were too. All of us building something beautiful together, just like she'd asked.